And one of the you
forgot.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I was thinking the
is
orcish
Harbinger.
alignment is kind of interesting because originally I think they were lawful evil, and then they become more and more chaotic as the additions
Harbor
have
Town is
progressed.
an all-new series from
Yeah.
Miniature Building Authority, the leader in tabletop gaming scenery.
I have to
flexible,
double check.
and playable.
That's a very interesting
Harbor
one,
Town
so.
will take your games to it.
Yeah, and then they're usually chaotic when you come to 3rd edition. So they become more and more brutally chaotic as And there's some saying back in the day that they were lawful to begin with, and yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting because there's so many humanoids that tend to the chaotic side, so it might be interesting to have some that are more lawful one bound. Yeah. Ah, yeah. See, you know more about this. Yeah, I need to boost up the going to open up Twitch here. So oh yeah, no worries. I usually home working Sunday evening anyway, so this is so this is a good time. Trolls are one of my favorites. Yeah, trolls and hags are some of my absolute favorite monsters. Yeah. 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 Yeah, and I've also tweaked dragons. I have a lot of house rules for dragons that makes them into more of the mythological kind of cool creatures, so to speak. I put in a lot of mechanics that explains why dragons do what they do, why they hoard, and why they're not overrunning the whole planet and stuff like that. So yeah, so I want to have rules mechanic that support the world as it's portrayed, so to speak. So if dragons are that powerful and they can multiply, why the hell haven't they killed everything and just taken over, so to speak? So yeah, so I try to make the world function on not from real perspective, but from on its own terms, so to speak. Okay. Yeah. Yep, I'm getting to this area on the 576 map. So yep. Oh, that's the Reaver's heraldry. It's kind of, yeah, it's interesting. Poultice is one of these kind of interesting religions that way, that kind of had morphs into different faces. that's one of these interesting. Now I have to go back to 576 because now I have to go back to the original lordships that made up and go back. Yeah, because they were not. And they were not listed in the original material, but they are retroactively listed in the Living Greyhawk material. They are named there, so the different baronies or whatever it was that made up. So I have to kind of the original ones that ganged up and formed like some of the shield builds maybe together. So I have to. Yeah. Hi. the well, we'll see about that. But it was a late addition to the show, so to speak. But I'll do my best. I'm charged up. I loaded up with a whole bunch of monster manuals from basically every edition of D&D. So I tried my best to be of help here. Yeah, I can hear you, but yeah. Uh-oh. Yep. Yep. See if you can fix it. Yep. Oh, okay.
How about now? Can you hear me? All right, so this is what I did. When I put my headset on, I didn't switch. Thank you. So you couldn't hear me all that the first 10 minutes behind the scenes. That's funny.
Damn, so they heard me but not you, so they missed the
Right. Sorry about that. So here's what happened.
Yep.
I switched. I put my headset on and then didn't switch. It doesn't automatically switch over internally in what do you call it? In XSplit, and it had my Samsung mic on. So sorry about that, guys. So tonight we're gonna. This may take this may be a long one, or we may split this out. We're gonna. Hey, there you go. What's up, Greg? How you doing? I know you got a game tonight. Thanks for hopping on. Or if you don't, hey, I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. We're going to talk about humanoids. This is a huge topic, and someone asked, "Man, that's a Herculean task." I was thinking, but this is going to be a general introduction of all of them, and maybe go into a little detail on each. But there's a ton of them, and we're going to stick this mostly to Greyhawk, but there's going to be some that could be in other realms. It doesn't matter, right? Anna, there's a whole bunch of them,
Oh
and
yeah, some of them are more generic than others, but there are a
yeah.
few kind of Greyhawk specialities that we can kind of, and yeah.
Oh, absolutely,
Hmm.
and it's going to be a fun discussion because I think that we will be able to, come out here and give you some ideas, and I know that it's going to be worthwhile because in Discord, I think there's a guy UTCY Gabriel, and he said, "Oh, I looked at your ad, and I've been playing for 30 years, and I didn't know what a Lhasa was." I was like, "Well, there you
Ooh,
go.
yep.
Now you found
Hmm.
that out, so it was
Yep.
worthwhile just to have someone in Discord say that."
Yep.
So
Hmm.
everyone has their favorites, right? But let's start with, and guys, you can bring them up as we go. There's a whole scroller here, so I'm going to start that up. So this, all right, first thing, this is right out of the Unearthed Arcana in the Ranger section when they made additions to Rangers. And this is those considered giant class humanoids that they got +1 per level damage on. So this was a good starting point, I figured, because these are all base humanoids all the way through giants. But we're not going to talk about giants tonight. And we're trolls. We'll only talk about the base troll. We're going to save them for next week. We're definitely going to have a show on giants and trolls. So this is the base list. Some of these, like Anna didn't know what a measle was. She just said, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot about the measles. Yep. Hmm.
measles, and then there's some weird ones like Tazloys on here
Yep.
and Grimlocks. But there's one on here I don't think belongs on here, and that's Dunestalker. And if you look up Dunestalker in your great fiend folio, it's a summoned creature, like an aerial servant or aerial stalker, and I just don't think it. I don't get why. Maybe because it's in a humanoid form. It's not a
Yeah.
humanoid. It's not a race unto itself. So I think that one really doesn't belong on this list. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are out there, Gaetano, Illustrion, Rethix. I mean, Rocks. You guys can, let me know what you think about that. But I really don't think it belongs on this list. So that's one that I question. And hold on here. Let's get caught up on our followers here real quick. Both of these are new followers, and they're also channels. So Indigo Chameleon's a channel. They're in Florida, and they do some streaming. I've done some mutual follows with both of these. Real good ones. And the other one you guys will recognize from last week when I called them Blazing Azure Cal 7 times instead of Blazing Azure Crow. So,
Uh-oh.
and we've done some joint follows there. So we got them in our off time between Thursday and now. Puts us at 14:07. So thank you all for that. Really appreciate it. All right. So let's start with the bases. I'm going to run this through, and you're going to see some really old picks, and then I'll stop it when I need to. So I'm going to start shuffling this, and here we go. Here. All right. Oh, that's a good pick. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about. You got a kobold, some kobolds in there, and you also have a halfling though, and an orc. We'll talk about that one later. It's kind of a joke. So start with the base one. Everyone knows orcs, right? Orcs are ripped right off from Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
But orcs in Lord of the Rings are immortal because they're made from elves. They don't die unless they're killed.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. They're basically elves that were corrupted. And if you look
Yeah.
up close in the movies, they have the pointed ears.
Hmm.
Yes, thanks, Rox. You agree with me on Dunestalker. I don't think that one fits on that list. I could maybe you get the Ranger bonus for it, but it just doesn't make sense. It's not a
Yeah.
race.
But the term humanoid have kind of morphed and different in different editions. In the beginning, it was a term for generally bad guys, so to speak, kind of, and
Yeah,
then it became more of a game mechanics term in third edition and later editions when you have different types of creatures. A humanoid was a bipedal thing, including humans and elves and dwarfs and all sorts of stuff were humanoids.
Well, Lendritz, thanks a lot for that. Yeah, he just said I looked up on Anna's map this week. Ended up, isn't that fun? There are so like if you look at that new 598 map, the last update, it's fun because there's so many things on there that got added, and we added a
Yep.
couple ourselves. Anna added
Mhm.
for us the Hidden Temple of Erythnol in the Sis Forest and our Feast City of
Yep.
Altamira. There's places all over there. It's a cool thing to do, and
Yep.
so that'll tie in because a lot of the locations that we're going to talk about, like the Hornlands, we're going to talk about Horn Society, Hornlands, and Lands of Ayus, and all the troops. You can see I have that up, and a great references to get. Of course, mine are ripped apart. So great references for tonight. This one is probably the best one for us. Slavers has a lot of humanoid
Yep.
turtles and tribes,
And
and then Marklands and Eyes Evil.
yep.
They're both real good
And
ones.
thank you so much, Lenders, for kind of using and liking my maps.
It's so
So
awesome,
happy when it comes to good use. Yep.
Yes, and research is a good thing, and that's why we would like to talk about what we're doing here, trying to keep some the Greyhawk chat going. So orcs, it's think about this. It was obviously they could use the name orc, unlike they couldn't use ent, right? So wonder why that is. I mean, orcs. It was the term orc pre.
I think
Tolkien?
it's probably part of some lore back in the day or some author before. I wouldn't be surprised. Like kobolds are part of others that, like, I think they're German monster to begin with, and or creature, and even elves are also part of old superstition, and I think orcs might very well come from there. I think goblins might come from there too. So a lot of these are like gnomes and stuff. They are at least partially based on creatures in real world myth.
And we know trolls definitely.
Exactly, definitely.
Trolls,
They're part of
definitely.
the old Norse mythos and probably other parts of the world too. So yeah.
Yeah. But orcs are the mainstay of the evil humanoid.
Yeah,
they're
kind of the standard humanoid in fantasy, general fantasy. Orc is the standard bad guy, so to speak, or humanoid. Yeah.
And they in the world of Greyhawk, they are, I would say, the main foot soldier of Ayu's troops too. And I'm going to scroll here.
It seems to be the main soldier in most of the armies and of various realms that actually employ humanoids. Orcs seems to be the standard, so to speak. Probably because they might be some of a combination of reliable and able, so to speak.
There's Mr. Tim.
Hi.
What's up, Tim?
Hello.
Hello. The ever mysterious Tim has come on, everyone. And we will hope by the end of the night they'll know that it's only a month away to his next game. So, Old English glossaries record the word orc corresponding with Latin orcus, deity of the underworld. Interesting.
See,
Grendel.
yep, there you
Interesting terminology there.
Yep.
So, if you look at this picture from the monster manual, they look like pigmen, right?
Yes. the old, scolded image of the pig orc. Yeah.
The pig orc. And then if you look at, and they've done really good jobs with future figures. I mean, a lot of the figures we have, they look more, I don't know, they look cooler. You know,
the orc has developed significantly, and also I think it's also coming in so many different shapes and forms through fantasy, especially now when you have so many games, computer games, especially when they get animated and visualized in a way that a lot of tabletop games you have a few illustrations, but in most computer games where you have humanoids and especially orcs in it, then you get a good look at them, so to speak, because they need to detail them in a way that most tabletop games don't have to. In movies like Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Yeah. So Tim, you're big on orc usage because orcs are the mainstay for your mongrels, right?
Yeah.
You need an orc to have a mongrel.
Ah, yeah.
Well, yeah.
You gotta have. Whoops, I went by it. Okay, we'll talk about that later. So, go ahead, Anna.
Oh, I will say that's one of the mongrels is one of these interesting. The whole humanoid menagerie is full of these bastards that are kind of halfway one way and half the other way, and there's a lot of examples of that. That is
right, because they're so darn evil. They're so evil. They're all rapists, so they're all evil. You know, they're all like creating these.
So I hear a back. Does anyone hear that back word? Is that me? I hear a feedback. Did anyone else hear that online? Yeah, pig orcs are funny. So
Yeah.
it could be me. It could just be. It
Yeah,
could
because
just.
I don't hear any.
I don't
Okay,
hear
it may have
either.
just been me. From. Let me just make sure on my. Okay, all right. So here is troops in the land of Ayus, and it has the orcs broken into tribes: Selbitz, Urzen, Jebli, Kazgun, and some minor tribes. And if you notice, this is the lands of Ayus. This is like main holding areas, 135,000. So this is the major foot soldier for the Ayus. And we're talking about, Eastern Vestry Forest here. You're talking about the lands of Ayus as well. You're talking about probably not the Hornlands as much because there's more hobgoblins there, but you're talking about anywhere else that they've like put out and occupied a lot. In the Shieldlands, there's going to be a lot of them now. Bandit on the edges of the Bandit Kingdoms and Hold the Stonefist. There's going to be orcs everywhere. Orcs are the main foot soldiers for Ayus, and good.
It makes sense because they're sexist and they're violent and they're I remember reading in one of the articles about their religion or about their philosophy, and it was kind of like survivors being strong. So everything being strong is about and tough, and surviving is all about that's what they want. That's all part of their key philosophy. You have to be strong to survive, and if you're weak, you get done away with, and if you just put all the females in one area and just make them they're going to produce more and more soldiers, then that's what they're going to do, and they're going to like weed out all the weak ones, and they're going to make everybody else strong, which makes them so great to be a hated enemy.
Yeah, that's it's interesting because I had another I experimented with and how the because they're so tribal, so they wanted to make sure that their tribal warriors were the best quality possible, and they also didn't want to bog themselves down by taking care of minors or whatever. So what they do is that they make a big pit that is deep enough that tiny orclings that are born, so when they're born, they simply put them in there. And then they have to live there and fend for themselves. And so it's only the really tough ones that able to eat the other ones and survive. And that when they able to climb out of the pit, they are hailed as worthy entrance into the tribe, and they're like everybody gathered and support them, so to speak.
That
And no
would
one
fit the
cares for
philosophy.
the ones that aren't that aren't able to make it. And if they're not fed enough, then they simply go out and find some other creature and throw in the pit so the young ones can eat it, so to speak. So they don't care for kids like humans do. They simply say that they have to show themselves worthy, and if they get eaten and they don't survive and get big enough to climb out of the pit.
So,
Yeah.
would it be that they get thrown in the pit after they're weaned, or is it they're not mammals?
Well, they are not mammals. They have to drink blood, whatever. So they just they just put them in there. They don't care about it. No one wants to take care of little ones, so they just put them in there and they have to. Yeah.
Sounds like Conan a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The movie.
So they're just tough. Yep.
Or
But
Tim's...
it's a fantasy world. They replace there's mutation somewhere down the line that they now can survive on blood rather than milk. So yeah.
Tim's military training too. It sounds like. I'm just kidding there.
No.
Humanoids in the Hornlands. We'll skip that. So.
Yep.
There are a lot of offshoots of orcs. We'll skip the mongrels for a second and talk about one that I love, and that is the Ogrillin. Now, the Ogrillin is a fiend-folio monster, and it appears in a lot of adventures early on, and people are like, "What is that?" Now, let me see if I can find the picture. It should be right at the orc. Here we go. Right there. That doesn't. I don't think that looks anything. That's like what an Ogrillin looks like, but that's the picture for an Ogrillin. So Ogrillins are ogre orc crossbreeds, and they have knobby. They don't use weapons. They have knobby things all over their body, and they get 2 attacks per round. And those attacks, I think, do 2 to 7, 2 to 7, and they're 2 hit die, and they're really nasty to throw up against a low-level party. So it's basically a mix of an ogre and an orc, and kind of your first mongrel they gave us, right? Is kind of what the Ogrillin is, and I can't remember the adventure they first appeared in.
Do they have societies and stuff, or are they just?
Hey, what's up, Wiley? Do they have society on their own? I think at this point, yes. Yes, in
Yeah.
limited groups, yeah. Being, they've gotten to the point they're not like a mule is MUL in Dark Sun, dwarf human, that they're sterile. I believe that they can breed on their own as well. So
Yeah.
here, the question I
I
have
think
is,
so.
what's that, Tim?
I was going to say I've used
What's up, man?
second generation half ogres. Second generation meaning 2 half ogres had kids.
Yeah.
And I always make them better. It's like the blend is working better now since they've kind of
That's I like that idea too.
And
That they yeah.
I think that you can buff up the ogrillans too. Once you hit a couple ogrillans, get the blend better than.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because with you and the way you do your mongrels, the putrid tongue, a little differently than me. Mine, they experiment a lot more. Yours, they're kind of more refined. Mine, they're breeding orcs with whatever they can. I mean, they found an orc centaur in the one place that it kind of didn't work. So all sorts of crazy stuff in the adventures. But they're more like, I know you have orc hobgoblins and stuff like that, but really this one is a published monster. I love it because it really, against new characters, throws a wrench into it, because you're like, wait, why doesn't that orc, because they kind of look more orcish than ogre. Here's a pick. This next pick is a pick of an ogrillin, and the horn guy's an ogre, and then the pig guy in the back's an orc. So, because remember, this is British. This is how the Fiendful is, so it's got a very British skew to it. So those are the three fighting a human. They're getting overrunning him. So it's kind of like.
And actually, if there is a picture in Steading of the Hill Giant Chief, one of the rooms, I think it's one of the matron giants, has a pan, and she's about to clock one of the orc slaves. And they're very, they have a piggish look.
Yeah, very piggish back then. So it hasn't gotten to the point where they're more Klingon looking. And that the figures really start evolving into that, as you get into in the second, third edition, it kind of changes up a little bit. So, but Grillins I love. Great character to throw in there. It's a really cool class of humanoid to really bring at them, because their armor class is really good too. So it's something different to consider, and main reference is Fiendfolio guys, and that's where you get to find that one. So how about Anna? Anna, pick a humanoid to bring up next. We're gonna go through as many as we can tonight.
Yeah, but first, before we go into the I want to kind of think about. There are certain areas in Greyhawk where do humanoids live? Do humanoids form like rule areas? Do they form kingdoms? Do they have realms and stuff? And it's kind of interesting. I think humanoids are a bit like dwarfs in treated that way in the Flanaess and Greyhawk, that they are much stronger than, if you look at the map and read the descriptions of most countries, they don't have their own realms at all. But once you start digging in and looking under the hood from a lot of realms, they turned out to be very they rule a few realms. Like the Bone March it's an area that is run by humanoids, and then they are very close to that form the majority of the government structures, so to speak, in several realms, like IU's Horn Society back when that existed, and you have many, even Great Kingdom back in the day had large troops. And one of the interesting things is the city of Rel Astra. I'm reading back on the original 576 version. Even Rel Astra employed a lot of orcs in their troops in order to, so there is a rich history of using humanoids left and right. So humanoids are kind of a bigger part than you see. And then there's some kind of hidden places where you don't really think about it. One of them is a place in Stonefist, and then
really? Did not know that.
Yes, and it's called Garek Engdal, and it's a huge underground orc town or city under there that is only a couple 100 miles or 100 miles away from Blekstad, the capital of Stonefist and later Stonehold. And to me, that's interesting. So there you have an enclave or like an area run by orcs, and they primarily live underground. There's no trace in the story where they what they live off and stuff. So I kind of started to think and realize, there's a little gap between the mountains and the coast. And I realized in winter, there might be a lot of animals that migrate from the northern parts and they go through and they migrate south. And that's might be the reason they built Lekstad, and that might also be the reason why the orcs started to live there in the first place, because you can go out and hunt every spring and every fall. There is an enormous amount of animals coming past in the migration, and you go out and hunt, and then you save for another 6 months, and then you go out and hunt again. So that might have been, so in my campaign, that was one of the reasons. It's a strategic gap between the mountains and the coast where you can hunt.
I never knew that, Anna. I never knew that there was a large underground. I mean,
Yep.
it sounds like it's huge.
Oh yeah, it's a city of like 10,000 orcs.
I did not know
or something
that.
like that. So it's
completely
thousands of
educated me on
humanoids living out. So
That's
there's
cool.
a lot of cool places and histories and stuff like that popping
Is that
out.
that's referenced right on your map, right? In the Hold of Stonefist?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Is that going to be on the 576 map?
I'm not really sure, because I have to restudy, and everything I'm suspicious of, I go back and do a research and see when it appears.
Awesome.
And I think it's something that appears in I think From the Ashes. It's not Living Greyhawk. I think it's earlier than that. So it most likely was there even back in 576. So. And
While you have it, any guess how many humans are in Knurl? KNURL.
Humans that are in Knurl, it's probably 40, maybe 20, 30,000 or something like that. Probably not that many. We can, so it's a city, probably about 5 or 6. It's a large city, maybe 10,000, and they put another 10, 20,000 in the surrounding areas.
This is why Anna is so vital to these conversations. I would have no idea, Hobbit. That's an awesome one. All right, so Anna brought up a good point. I should do this too, because here's my ripped front page of my old Slavers. You want to go to Slavers page 82 under the Pomage. 82, 83, and 84 has a whole bunch of tribes for the Pomage with the turtles. So if we go to the orcs in the Pomage, Cracked Skull, Crooked Claw, Flaming Skull, Jagged Blade, Red Fang, Saltburner, interesting, and Shadow Moon. They're all orc tribes that are in the Pomage. So, and that's a great reference for everyone to have. And we'll go over some of the other ones as we go, locations for them. Yeah, so that's cool, Wiley. I'm glad that Anna was able to answer your question. So Anna, throw one out there, and we'll go to.
I think goblins is another one of these kind of basic standard humanoids that we have to devote some time to the goblins.
Let's start with the regular, good old fashioned goblin. Then we'll go to its cousin, not the hobgoblin, the bugbear.
Bugbear? Yeah.
And then we'll go to the hobgoblins. We'll go to all three on them. So here's a goblin. That's right out of the monster manual. Goblins are 1/2 hit die. Or no, they're 1 minus 1. 1 minus 1. Kobolds
They
are
were
half.
the most feeble of the humanoids. And they were
to start off until they brought kobolds and smarts on.
Yep.
So, go ahead, Tim.
Well, I was just perusing my old monster manual and looking, and I think a lot of times humanoids get all like they kind of get underdone because their intelligence is average.
Yeah.
They're not like stupid. So I mean, when everyone is playing for keeps like they are, that's going to increase.
Yep.
It's going to increase their higher learning. There's always going to be people who, some of them are going to be smarter than others. But so when you deal about a city of 10,000, or I think that's what you were talking about, Anna, it makes sense that, hey, they got average intelligence. They're going to want to all right, not everyone is going to be a fighter. We need to have somebody who's going to make us good armor. We need to have somebody who's going to farm. We get slaves to do it. Somebody's got to manage them. Somebody's got to preserve food. Somebody's got to drive it. Logistics will drive it all because you can only fight as well as you can travel. So
and here's the main question. It says right in the monster manual, well, lieutenants are higher hit die and the chief could have higher hit die, which leads me to the question of, it's not hard, even in 1E, 2E, to take, or even 3E, to take a monster and make it elite, or make it a sub-chief level out there venturing. And that's what I've done to scale up goblins or scale up any of them. So,
in third edition and Pathfinder that I've been running the last 25 years, something, it's that then you can just add class levels. So the basic humanoid goblin, it's just like a level 0 human that it hasn't got its classes yet. So there you can add to it. But I think Tim took up a really interesting piece, because a lot of humanoids are average in intelligence. So they're not dumb individually. Most of them are smart individually. The reason I make that they're kind of less successful overall than humans and elves and dwarfs is that they have less of an organizational capability.
That's true.
They are more angry. They are more easy to aggression. They have short tempers, and they don't organize as well culturally.
They need to
on
have
big
somebody.
terms.
They need to have some strong person. Controlling.
Yeah. The only way you rule them is by physical strength and might and fear, rather than by institutions of law and come up with. They obey only pure strength usually and personally, rather than.
They'll fight themselves. They'll fight another tribe just as readily.
Exactly. They are their tensions and aggression and stuff are just easily aroused, and they get over.
There's some humans like that too. If you have a young football team.
Yeah.
So, Anna, goblins are lawful evil, just like orcs.
Yes.
To start off.
So they're probably the kind of the minor foot soldiers in a lot of humanoid, like Bone March and the Pomarsh and other areas that employ lots of them. Probably IUS probably has lots of them too.
Goblins are pretty plentiful in the Pomarsh, and if you remember in A1, I think there were some in there. In A0, the prelude that came out for the Slavers series, it's a goblin mine area that the goblins had overtaken. I may run that one day. I have never run A0.
But goblins seems to be prolific, meaning they pop up a little bit everywhere, and then they pop, and they probably multiply quickly and can overrun an area. They're simply, instead of being powerful individually, they are probably more swarm mentality.
It says too, they're fair miners, so they can.
Yes, absolutely. They mine like kobolds as well. They mine like kobolds are like antitheses to.
So they hide underground.
And goblins are antitheses to dwarves. I think that's where they wanted to pair it up. If you step up one more, you got the hobgoblin. I got that pick of it looks like an oriental raced hobgoblin here in Monster Manual a little bit with the samurai head on. And they're lawful evil, and I always think of hobgoblins as the first tier of the true organized humanoid. That's what I think of them as. Like, hobgoblins got their act together organizational wise over orcs or goblins and kobolds. So what do you think about that?
I agree with you that hobgoblins are the more organized and running, and goblins are sometimes more or less their pets that they can kind of throw around left and right, and they probably don't want to live in too much organized society, so they kind of strike out and go run wild when need be.
Tim Low 505 says Tim reminds me of an assassin. That's so funny. You don't know the whole story, Lo. You just don't know the whole story. Kind of he was. So yes.
I'm glad no one says that about me.
He must be like a James Bond.
Yeah, no, more like more like an Equalizer. So I love this pick. This big fight underground. With all the hobgoblins in the Monster Manual. Hobgoblins tend to be better geared than orcs and goblins, right? They have better weaponry, and I know the Horn Society was the big place in the in the world of Greyhawk that there it is, humanoids in the Hornlands. If you look at this, you're looking at 31,000 hobgoblins in the Horn Society. So that's a lot compared to all the other humanoids. So that seems to be the main mass location that they are. Now, when you're gaming, you can put them wherever you want, but just that just seems to be the place. So what do you guys think about what happened with IUs and the Horn? I know you hate it, Anna, with the Horn Society and IUs.
I thought it was so sad, because the Horn Society was one of my favorite villains that used extensively in through my years of gaming, and then they Carl Sargent kind of wiped it out and disappeared. So I had to come up with, because I wanted to follow it the
It's
general,
got a
because
better name.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I thought, like, why could that be? And so I made up a story on how it happened, simply because the Horn Society, they were fairly well organized, so to speak, but they also had a little bit of a bureaucracy, and then they got lazy. And they simply started organizing them in units, rather, because there was not so many talks about tribes of humanoids in the Horn Society. So they probably started making them into military units. They were
Right.
more deviltry and stuff. So they kind of organized, and the humanoids don't really like that. So he was like a populist politician. He came and simply say, well, if you join me, I can offer you loot, blood, adventure, and kills, so to speak, and big loot. So that he simply bribe them with loot and easy kills, and go out and join my hordes, and we will loot everyone, and you will eat man flesh and have gold and whatever you can
Yeah.
kill, so to speak.
Uh,
And they became this surge of, yes, we should do that, and most of them just abandoned the Horn Society that way. That was my kind of internal, how I kind of rationalized it, that the Horn Society, the hierarchs, got lazy, and they organized things, and the humanoids got bored, because humanoids want to have war and struggle and something to kill, a purpose, and go out and find fresh kill and have fun, so to speak. So that's, and IU's offered that, and he kind of ran with it, and the humanoids loved him for it.
I think that the Horns. I always liked that the Horn Society should have been a little bit more stronger, but the hierarchs maybe have been fighting about
Yeah,
whatever. And but it was devil worship as opposed to demon worship, right?
yeah,
And kind of
they were too organized, and the
yeah,
humanoids didn't like it. The humanoids wanted to run wild more than belong to
yeah.
an organized unit, so to speak. That's how I kind of, and also, I guess, the once you start losing a little bit, then you get on the losing stream, so to speak, and that kind of
Yeah.
took over.
No
So
one
yeah,
wants to be a loser.
yeah,
Even even in this world, that's the worst thing that you could have happen. So hey, Walt, I
yeah,
see Walt's on. That's cool. Cool. What's up, Colby? So some now bugbears and
yeah,
Norkers. Norkers are related to goblins, and bugbears are cousins of goblins, not hobgoblins. So it gets a little confusing, even though they're
yeah.
bigger.
But the Norkers are part of the Greyhawk
Yes, they are.
speciality, or they are kind of generic, or they belong to Greyhawk. They kind of invented in the Greyhawk
And they
universe.
are a Fiend Folio again monster. Now, the cool
Yeah,
thing about the Norker is they really have a good armor class. They have very rubbery skin,
yeah.
and they get a bite and a weapon attack. Tim, do you use Norkers at all?
Mm, I,
A little bit.
I don't recall. I may have.
I've used
I'm not
Norkers, and
opposed.
yeah,
What
Yeah,
are they? I forget what they're a mix of.
they're not. They're their own race. If you look in, it says far. Oh,
The name might
hobgoblins.
be
I
Norker.
apologize. Far distant relatives of hobgoblins. Norkers are similar in appearance to their hobgoblin cousins, but have developed 3-inch fangs, which they use immediately to inflict. So they bite and weapon, and their natural armor class is 3. It's pretty nasty, and their hit die is 1+2. So and they're chaotic evil. It's a good shock
and
troop.
yeah, and that's what I used them in I use wars and stuff. He used Norkers as part of his kind of frontline humanoids, or
Yeah,
infantry. But I also love that this illustration is one of the really cool ones, because he looks like a humanoid, kind of with maybe a little bit too much trollish appearance.
almost. Yeah, with the
Yeah,
with
a
the
little bit
ears and the
too much.
fangs.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too much
Once
You know,
again,
trollish
a
yeah.
appearance.
Fiend Folio by whoever, I don't know. I'm sorry, I apologize that I don't know who the artist is, but whoever Russ is throughout that book. So whoever Russ is, maybe Anna knows.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll see. I'll look in here and
and
see if I can find
so
who
that's
did it.
cool. And then we'll go back to the beginning and we do the bugbear. Bugbears are they're cousins of goblins, but there's something about bugbears.
It's
Tim, yeah, go ahead, Russ.
it's Russ Nicholson.
Okay, cool.
Yep, Russ Nicholson.
I
And
know he
otherwise,
did a lot of pictures for White
yeah,
Dwarf magazine too.
yeah. And
There's a,
Jeff D and Errol Otis did a lot of the illustrations in the Fine Folio as well.
awesome.
Yep.
So Tim, what is really nasty about bugbears when you're a cleric and you're like, oh yeah, I'll just stop them?
Where I just stop them.
Yeah, because a third level clerk. What would a third level clerk attempt to do to a humanoid?
A whole person.
Right. They're immune to it. It doesn't affect bugbears. Bugbears the first tier of humanoids you cannot cast whole person on. So gnolls is where it cuts off. So bugbears
Oh,
and
they're
up.
not a person. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing, because in third edition you introduce the creature types, so
Right.
all the creature type, because then all of a sudden humanoid became a game mechanics, the term humanoid.
Right.
So everyone that was bipedal and had basic decent intelligence and lived in some sort of civilized society was considered a humanoid. And then you had the monstrous humanoids with the hags and the night hags and some of
Right.
the other ones that were kind of more kind of trolls. I'm not sure if trolls. Well,
Trolls are their own class, or
Yeah.
they should be.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
are humanoid according
Yeah.
to the ranger rules. But
Mhm.
bugbears are large. They do like 2 to 8.
Yeah, they're
2
large.
to 8 damage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'm not
more than
saying
7 feet.
They
Then,
surprise on a
Yeah.
1 to 4.
Yeah, and they're stealthy too. They have move silently and hide in shadows as a equivalent thief. A lot of people forget that when you're using them. And if you-
I don't.
no, you don't. And if you guys all saw Hidden Temple of Erythnol a couple weeks ago, I had bugbears sneaking all over the place on them inside because they're chaotic evil. So they're not very organized well, and them and gnolls especially. And it's a good monster to really throw up against when characters start getting like third, fourth, fifth level. Nasty. So, but they're large, so you get a fighter or a knight or a cavalier fighting with two-handed sword or whatever. You do a lot of damage on them. So I like bugbears, another good one. But they work with goblins. They're like, I guess they see them as their little buddies, but they hate hobgoblins. So that's another weird thing. So
Well,
but it's
probably because I think probably because goblins will kowtow to them,
right.
but
Yeah.
hobgoblins are always going to eventually push and fight them.
Yep. Yeah,
They're probably like, those guys don't learn their lesson, so they probably hate hobgoblins.
It's a good point. Absolutely, definitely
So
on
they're
that.
chaotic evil, so they're going to be like,
Yeah.
they're not going to be organized, but they're going to want to have their minions do what they say without question, just because.
Absolutely. They were like the main with gnolls. They were the main shock troops we had in the Hidden Temple of Erythnol. That was a second edition module written, so it was cool. So Anna, all your goblin and hobgoblin family here. You have any things you want to add to that? I mean, that's four. That's four we hit right there. You got goblins, hobgoblins, orcers, and bugbears.
But then we have the flints. Where do they come in?
Flints, we'll get gnolls. We gotta go to gnolls.
Okay, we have to hit.
Yes, we gotta go to gnolls. So let's go to gnolls. Why not?
Yeah, go to gnolls. The next
we were
big
talking
family
about them. Absolutely, we'll go to the gnolls there. That's a flint, but let's. I put them. Oh, I went by. Now the pictures got much better for gnolls as well. Gnolls are, they look like hyenas, right? And actually,
exactly the hyena. Yeah,
there's a gnoll right there in the middle of that picture.
Yeah,
much better looking than
the gnolls are so themed humanoids that they're really cool that way.
That's the Flynn. That's a Flynn picture from the Fiend Folio, which they come out of, and we'll talk about what they do. And there's a gnoll. That's from the Monster Manual. It's a little faded.
Yeah.
Gnolls are kind of act like hyenas, and they are very bullying to the weaker, and then when they get bullied, they take off. Right?
Yeah, and also they seem to be the open plains humanoids, not down in the underground or digging holes like goblins, whatever. They seem to be out in the plains, running and outdoorsy types that way.
Now, if you saw my you did, Anna, saw my Thursday night adventure, they fought a whole bunch of gnolls, and that keep up in the Cairn Hills. Gnolls are not that difficult. They're like they're the entry level humanoid for large. So their problem is their armor class isn't good. The weaponry is not that great, and they're large as well. So and the old 1E 2E, they took a beating from like just a longsword, and that seems to be the drawback to the base gnoll. Tim, any recollections of you with gnolls?
Yeah, well, they're the first ones that are large, but they also the first ones that have a, like, it says great bow, but like they have a long bow.
That's true. They can use long bows. Absolutely.
They can also according to the archer article, they could be archers. They can
Yes,
be an
they
archer
can.
class
Yeah.
that's up to a certain level. So
Yeah.
I
But
always
that,
imagine them as being more likely to do that because they're kind of cowardly, so they'd rather shoot
yeah.
you from a distance
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah, and since they live on open spaces, it kind of makes sense that ranged weapons are more useful in an open environment than in forests or underground and stuff. So it makes
Just give
perfect
them a
sense.
hyena dons to ride, and you have a
Yeah.
real serious
Hmm.
threat.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, exactly. That's what I've depicted them. That they have the wargs and other hyena-like, dog-like creatures that they have as their beast of burden and ride on and stuff. So yeah. And then they can become really nasty. They can also be very fast that way. They can be
Right.
very mobile. They can come in, 20 of them, 30, and hit you from a distance with bows and then ride by and run you over and rip you to pieces and then be gone the next round or two. So yeah.
They are. I guess they can have almost any weapon too. They use a lot of
Yep.
different weaponry. A
Yep.
lot of pole arm
Spears. They
use.
can throw
Yeah,
spears and
lot
stuff too.
of
So
pole
yeah.
arm
Yep.
use absolutely with shield. Uh, More of that than the two-handed weaponry. But bows absolutely, Tim. I got a lot of those null figures with bows.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
I
bow
wonder
shooting.
where
They're good in your humanoid military because they can shoot over the front ranks of goblins.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
they
if you
kind
can
of
organize them.
cavalry and,
Yeah.
and archery units in armies like I use and others. So yeah.
So, but when you get to, you wanted to talk about the Flins. Flins are, there we go. Tomb Guardians. Let me get to the Flynn article here. Thank you so very much, Tomb Guardians. GGGF Flins.
I remember one cool thing with the Flins. They had a special weapon called the
Oh
Flynn
yeah, the Flynn bar,
bars.
the Flynn
Yeah.
bar.
Mhm.
I
Flynn's.
hate that.
Oh well, you.
Was that they could disarm with it?
Yes.
I remember.
So
Yeah.
Flynn's are 2+3 hit die, whereas Knolls are 2 to the base. So they always attack +1 hit probability over the Knoll because they'd be in 1E2E, they'd be in the same table. 2-3 hit die is the same table, but they get an
Yeah.
extra +1 to hit. But what the Flynn bar does is the following. Leader types of 3+3 hit die. So Flynn bars, they get 2 attacks with it now per round. So it's basically a 3-section staff.
Yep.
Right. And if they hit, it's only 1 to 4 points of damage, but you have to say versus wands, your weapon becomes entangled with the chain. So I use them a lot when and we'll see this next week on Thursday at the end of Lord of the Cairn Hills because there's Flynn figures out on the other side of the map already if you saw the end. So Flynn's are great for disarming people who are fighting giants. Right? Because you got to take that. You don't want them disarming you right in the middle of a fight. So, yes. Hey, what's up, Nick? So good to see you. Thank you, Tomb Guardian, for the follow. We really appreciate it. But they are. Here's the weird thing. They're lawful evil. I don't know if they should be or not, but they are lawful evil and Knolls are chaotic evil. So it says a large group of Knolls will sometimes be led by one or several Flynns.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think they're, and I remember, I think they were depicted briefly in the Gord books. I'm not, I think so. They were part of something that Gord, I think, but I might be wrong on that one. But but they are depicted as a Greyhawk kind of variety of humanoids. So the Flints are part of the Greyhawk specials, so to speak.
I don't. Yes. So, Tim Guardians, thank you for that. Yes, sure. I'll talk to you. And Taco, I know the Saints are on tonight. I know. It's okay, man. Just hey, you gotta root for your team. But thank you so very much
Keep your
for.
problems to yourself.
Well, yeah. I like the Flynn's. I wish that my Flynn figures didn't have them hunched over with a shield. But look, you see this picture right here at the bottom? See those 3 on the other side of the bridge? They're Flynns. And notice there's 4 archers or 6 archers that are Knolls. So I have 3 Flynns there, but they have shields out. It's a shame that they don't have the 3-section staff. But that picture right there, that was pre-streaming that adventure.
Well, they don't all have that though, right? They don't all carry a Flynn.
Of course I make it that all Flynns do. I have it that way because I know how annoying that is. So yeah, absolutely. And the
So
Tomb
you can
Guardians.
actually get Flynn miniatures?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Wow,
Those three
that's
are
amazing.
actual Flynn miniatures on that right there.
Mhm.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
You can, yeah, yep, definitely.
I,
And there
I
they are on the
imagine
bridge, crossing the bridge. The
I,
three Flynns I have
I'm
for that.
imagining the Flynn bar is it's like it's kind of like nunchucks with longer chain, right?
Yeah, something like that, like a 3-piece. Yeah.
Like a Manriki Guazzari, but it's just two bars and they fling. They probably whip one around and they but get the chain wrapped around the weapon or
Yeah.
something.
Or it might be that you hold on to one piece and the other pieces are a bit shorter with longer
Right.
chains in between. So you get like a handle to hold and then you throw it and then it kind of
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
tangles.
It
Yeah.
it sounds like it definitely sounds like a fantasy weapon.
Now
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
here's another thing I don't allow. I, I I like that certain humanoids have specialty abilities. I know that it's called Tim and Alan abuse. I'll put them both in there together. Someone has not tried. Oh, I'm gonna be proficient in Flynn bar, and I'm gonna get the same ability. No,
Oh, okay.
right? Look at that. Look at that. Look
I
at
have
this.
not done that.
No,
I'd use one of the weapons in the player's handbook that they
I
can
know
use.
the whip. That's so
No,
ridiculous.
the Ransure. I think I was Spetum. Both of those
Yeah,
did
but
something.
it's ridiculous that
So
disarming
those are
thing.
actually real world and they can actually really work. They're not a fantasy weapon.
Hey, Indigo Chameleon, how you doing? Hopefully your trip to Philly was good. If you're back, but thanks. And like I said, I got you on follow now. So thanks for hopping on tonight in our discussion here. Really appreciate it.
But
So
I don't think I've ever argued to use a humanoid thing. That's more of an honor roll. I don't think
I'm
that's
just
any
saying,
scheme.
we have a joke that's called Tim and Alan abuse because you open up that door just a little bit and and then right through. I'm going to do this then.
I don't know what you're talking
Yes, you
about. I don't
did.
think you have a good example. I don't think
Oh,
you've got
come
a good
on.
Mhm.
I can. Why is
most of those
someone?
will be
Yes.
most of those would be interpretation of the metaphysics of like, hey, is this even possible to do right now? I'm suggesting it is, and you say it's not. Well, you're the DM, so that's just
But
the way it
I'm
is.
sorry. I just got um. My neighbor down the street's calling me about something, and I'm like, gosh. So apologize. Yeah, but there's those things, and it's kind of a running joke. When you play with someone for 40 years, you get these jokes running, and that's one of them. So you know that.
I do have a character with a tongue tool,
Yes, you do. Well, a
Oh,
lot of people have
yes.
characters with tongue tools. So, all
a
right.
magic tongue tool. Mine's +2.
Yes, well, there is one +3 out there. Salem has it, I
Ooh.
recall. So, Knowles in, like, for example, let me see if they have them down. Flint, there's actually written down here, tribes of Flyns. It's called Victorious, and they're in the Pomars, 800 of them. The tribe of Flyns is often called upon by Tarish Mach to rally the Knoll tribes during a great offensive. And it actually has the chief's name, too, Rawmanon. Their
What
banner is a.
tribe?
You need to do this one, Anna, and put it on the map. Their banner is a Flynn bar over a two-colored black background, blue on top and red on the bottom. That's a cool one.
Oh,
That's right. Yeah.
that
So
is
that's on
really
page
cool.
84 of the Slavers. So
Ah,
tongue
yeah,
tool.
I think so. What? Let's see, Flint bar. So what's the name of the tribe?
The name of the tribe one more time. Victorious.
They
And
are on the map, I think. Yeah. Let's
oh, is
see.
it cool?
I think they are. I remember reading about them, but I might have missed them somewhere. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's a cool cool banner.
Yeah.
So let's go off on a beat on a weird one. Let's do one that Anna had no idea what it was.
Yes.
The measle.
measles. Yeah. hmm
We're gonna go do a goofy one next. The measle. The measle's out of Fiend Folio. We'll do kobolds later too. Lizard man.
These are like little nasty little things.
Yes, they are. The measle. Okay, so measles are right. A lot of these crazy ones are out of the Fiend Folio.
The
All right.
two-handed sword is like a dagger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Are they tiny? I mean, they're like 3 feet tall or something.
Yeah. Measles are very small, and
Oh, I remember that picture.
yes,
Yes.
solitary bipeds just less than man-sized. Measles are rarely encountered outside their lairs, either marshes or small dank cavern underground. They have natural thieving abilities at the 4th level of experience. Now they are 4 hit dice, which is pretty sick for a small little creature like that. So
Yeah.
in combat, they attack with their 2 claws. Alternately, they use a piece of tough, thin cord to strangle their victims. A hit indicates a cord has been wrapped around the victim's neck, and he will die from strangulation within 2 melee rounds unless he breaks free or the measle it dies, or is forced to
Uh-oh.
release its hold, like that picture there. That is freaking nasty.
Now I remember the pictures. Yeah.
Yes. However, the measle can only execute this kind of attack against a victim which is man-sized or smaller, and only it can approach a victim from the rear undetected, achieving surprise. So, no real ecology of, but these are the kind of creatures when you have a character, a person, or PC who's really annoying shit or something, and you want to teach them a little bit of a lesson. You want to put that breadcrumb trail of treasure into the room, and I'm gonna go in there, and then a measle sneaks up and strangles them, and in 2 rounds they're dead. I mean,
I
seriously.
think it would be awesome to also, low level guys, fourth level thief is probably likely to be able to pickpocket or steal shit from them if they're sleeping, or
Yes.
it's a good way to take all their things they need, and without even fighting necessarily. It's like, I'm just gonna take their stuff and let nature run its course,
Yeah. So
But the humans with no light sources, that'd be, they could come and steal that and be like,
this is one that is a good surprise humanoid to throw in there, and this is right up at Carlos's alley too. So
he could find a real good,
yeah,
real good
absolutely.
use.
So I would say at 4 hit die, you really don't want to take this one lightly. So I rarely use them. I save them for once in a blue moon deal, but it's kind of like those really deadly things you throw in, like water weirds here and there, and other monsters that really one shot, one kill almost, like brown mold and all other sorts of things that you really got to be careful. Green slime even. This is kind of the humanoid version of that. One strangle and it's over. So a cool one, but a one that you really don't want to overuse. But still, it's a great one to throw in once in a blue moon. So I like it. How about we talk about another underground one, the Grimlock?
Oh yes,
Okay,
Grimlocks.
Grimlocks. We're gonna go. Let's do that.
That's the gremlins, right?
The Grimlocks are another fiend folio creature.
Yeah, it's one of the really cool ones from yeah.
There.
Oh.
Yep.
They're like the zombie humanoids.
They kind of the
Yes.
the standard cavemen kind of in D&D form.
Kind of, and you know where Grimlocks come from? Did you ever see the Time Machine one where he goes million of years into the future and they're Grimlocks, right? That's what those creatures are called, if I recall correctly. I think that's where they come from. It's from Jules Verne. Is that Jules Verne?
I thought they were Morlocks.
No, Grimlocks. Grimlocks. Absolutely. Grimlocks are on page 48 of the Fiend Folio. They are 2 hit die. They are naturally blind. Okay? They have no visual sight organs. But they have the equivalent of vision at 10 foot, and reducing their hit probability by -2.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sorry, if there's like audible glamour is a spell to put on them. Is ones with sound effects. So, hey, Walt, what's up? Grimlocks, yes. We've used a lot of Grimlocks. Grimlocks were used in Return to Durban for that mega adventure we did,
Yeah.
Walt.
In 3rd edition Pathfinder and probably later, then they will have what you call blind sense.
Oh, okay.
So they because then you have way more sensory ways to send it. So you have blind sense. So you basically, even if you're blinded and it's pitch black, you can still kind of see. You know what material and what are close to you within like 10 feet.
And they attack en masse normally when ratings. Number appearing in the Fiend Flow is kind of funny. It says 20 to 200.
Dumb, if I remember correctly.
Average intelligence.
Oh, that's the surprise me. All these humanoids that you think are dumb and just brutal, that they are mostly smart enough to. Wow.
These are the mirror image mages thing and invisible thieves because it doesn't affect them.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
they also save as 6th level fighters.
Wow.
And they
so
prefer
they're nasty enemies.
They prefer bloodletting weapons, and I'm sorry, their vision, their equivalent sight vision is 20 feet. It's kind of, an Underdark raiding upper world creature.
Yeah.
You don't want to. It's another one. Unlike the Measle, which is a solitary killer, this thing's a non-mass killer, and you could easily get overrun quickly without defenses. I mean, your best defense here is a good armor class, right? As opposed to stealth with these kind of creatures. Yes, that's it. H.G. Wells is the time machine, is where they came from. Absolutely, Indigo. Yes, absolutely. Yep. I said Jules Verne. I was wrong. It's definitely H.G. Wells. Yeah. So it's a cool monster. Another one that's a humanoid class. I've used them a little bit, and in particular in the Return to Durbanford series, there's a whole lair of them in that series, in that mega adventure. So Tim, you want to pick one?
Pick a humanoid to talk about?
Yeah, pick one.
Yeah. Now we're starting to run lower here, but
we got a ton of them.
But we have one family.
We haven't hit one that is critical in the underestimation department.
Okay.
That's the kobold, unless you already.
Let's do the kobold. No, we haven't yet.
We haven't done
kobolds are easily underestimated because they're so puny and pathetic, but they are also average. I think average intelligence, average low. But that means they're.
Kobolds. I just went right by them. I thought that.
And they like to work together.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the number appearing in the monster manual, it's 40 to 400.
Kobolds are
They like to work together and be They cooperate, graduate sort of mindset. So they're far more dangerous because they're not, they're not the one man entity. They're going to be, throwing nets, or they're going to be doing traps. They're going to be doing, missile weapons. They're going to be more organized because they're so puny. They'll be killed by anyone else.
Yeah, and they can probably use reach weapon from the second echelon of you have the first one in the front, and then you have others behind them. And so
they're dangerous and small, so they can run away in little teeny holes that you can't follow.
Kobolds and gnomes are natural enemies because of where they live too.
Yeah.
So and they're both mining capable. When we use kobolds, we tend to underuse them in the proper way, right? We kind of use them as the little your first level characters is what you're going to go up against, goblins or kobolds normally, right?
You can catch them when they're not at home ready.
Right.
That's the best time to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is Clag their guide, or I thought it was Raxavort, which is the Zwart guide. Is he just kobold? Yeah. Tucker's kobolds. Okay, cool. And I'll wait on it. Here we go. You want to bring up something really nasty with kobolds? Here we are. Here's a mass thing with a net, right? This is right out. It's one of my favorite large full scale. It's the whole page pick right in the monster manual. Like that group's completely surrounded by them. You got to, and look, they're fighting back to back, and it looks like a web spell is just going off from the wizard, right? And so you don't want to. I mean, the half hit die creatures still could be nasty en masse, but
they're so small they can arrange for bad things to happen.
Absolutely.
With planning.
Absolutely. But then you want to, these are the Dungeon Master pictures at the bottom in the supplemental area. This is a kobold fight too. And there's one for trolls too. There's a whole bunch of them if you've ever seen them. There's one that fighting stone giants if you ever saw that one. They're at the bottom in the appendices. Those pictures are really cool as well. So here you go. Edie Little Daddy Snitman, which is a ripoff of Idi Amin, obviously, is the head of what, Tim?
Oh, they're like the airborne,
The
right?
Cobalt Commandos, right?
Cobalt Commandos. Yeah, I
The
knew they were
Cobalt
airborne.
Commandos. Now, if you have played the original Baldur's Gate, you've fought Cobalt Commandos before. So they put them in an actual module. And so the Cobalt Commandos are a specialist group. Now he's lawful neutral, but it's kind of a little cool thing to throw at a
These
group
guys
occasionally.
they found like a box of 100 rings of feather falling. Right?
Yes, they did. So they fly bats and stuff, and then they jump off the bats into the fight.
They're
it's pretty
airborne.
funny.
They're airborne.
They're airborne, yeah. So you have
You got to respect the airborne.
You do. You got so it's kind of a funny little thing, but yeah, your Cobalt Commando group is one you can like throw at them, and if you know,
I mean, all you have to do to change them from a little annoying thing that you can wait in. You know, you're a 10th level fighter. I get to attack 10 times because they're below 1 hit die. Right?
We don't. I don't do that.
I know you don't do that, but still, that's what the rule says. But that you can, all that applies until you figure they're smart enough to make a poison weapon, and then that changes. Oh, all these little things are so annoying. All they got to do is sit back and shoot you and hit you, and then the more it's like the drow with the whole sleeping poison, whatever. So,
well, you can always
they can be extremely dangerous. They can be.
You can always make any humanoid nasty if you give their sling bullets poison, or in Baldur's Gate they gave them acid arrows and flaming arrows. So you can always make things nasty that way.
That takes a lot of chemistry, but I mean poison. You can they can have some pet frogs that they rub the poison off the back of the frog onto their dart.
Oh.
It's like the arrows can be a problem, and then
So that's a cool thing. It's neat. Ad, have you used kobolds at all?
Well, yeah, but I've used them mainly as a underdark monster, so to speak, not up in the up on the main surface much.
I had a group of it was close. It was a couple hundred of them in college, and they went mass area offensive spells quickly. So they did not. The kobolds weren't a problem.
Yeah, you gotta not let them get you in a bad position. I mean, that's the key thing.
I've used kobolds mainly as kind of expert labor in various areas. So when they want to do mining and deep underground operations and stuff, they use kobolds. So they've been hired to do stuff like that, and then generally to if there's riches to be had in the mountain, then they kind of pop out and then they're like the humanoid equivalent of the dwarfs, meaning that they go where the riches are, and especially down in the lower regions of the Flanaess, that's where they kind of hide out and are fairly prosperous. That's how I see them. So they're kind of an interesting.
And I like the names of some of the tribes here in the Pomars. Dead Rat, Green Meat.
There are some awesome ones.
Ichor and Yellowtooth.
Yeah, the purple squid hobgoblins, and you can imagine what the name comes from, so to speak. Do you have the salt burner orcs are kind of cool too.
So, yeah, it's they did a good job with the names of those in that tribal area, and the detail on this in this article is.
Now you found a tribe that I missed, so
vicious or victorious.
So now so now I have to figure out what the Flint bar looks like, so I can put it on the herald.
Yeah, I think it's
which tribe has the name Vile Rune? It's one of the examples.
I think
it's an orc one.
I think it's Hobgoblin. Let me see.
That's one of my favorite. Vile Rune. Like that's a nasty name.
I don't see it in. It may be in a module.
Ichor kobolds, the fell Ichor kobolds, and vile epithet gnolls. They are next door neighbors, so to speak. So yeah.
Some pretty cool. I like worm-ridden tree for the goblins.
Oh, I have the victorious Flynn's on the map. I just didn't have the heraldry.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So now I can do the heraldry.
I imagine the staff has got to have some kind of hook on it or something somewhere to disarm. It's got to have a chain. It says a chain wrap.
Exactly. Yeah, I see it as a kind of a relative of the
from like Saturday morning martial arts movies.
Maybe a little hook on it or something cool. So we'll see.
So guys in the audience, if you here's our list here. I'm going to go over another one, but if you see one that
Orc tribe, Vile Rune. This is the first one.
Yes.
Mhm.
Wow.
You guys see something you want us to discuss, we'll be more than happy to do it. We're not Giants. We're going to save for next week, and we're only going to discuss the base troll because we're going to save trolls for next week too because we're going to do a giant and troll one discussion. How about Zvarts? Let's do that one because
Okay.
finish up
Yeah.
the small ones.
Mhm.
Zvarts
Yeah, we
are
can-
a
yeah.
specialty one and not used that much. They're right out of the Fiend Folio as well.
I don't like him. I don't like him.
And that's because
There's no half Zarts in the mongrel.
Well, yes, there you go.
Look at him.
Yes.
Look at him. Who wants to breed with that? What good are they?
Now we're talking about look at Lengers. We're talking about Zwarts right now. Wiley, thanks, man.
I love that
Anytime.
illustration. Is so charismatic and cool. Yeah.
Zwarts, 1-1 hit die, so the equivalent of goblins, not kobolds, actually. Armor class 7. They're mediary between goblins and kobolds and will generally attack the latter. They fear humans and will only attack a human party if the Zwarts are greatly in the majority. So there you go. They are chaotic evil. So, oh, by the way, Grimlocks are the only ones that are neutral evil. They weren't lawful or chaotic. Grimlocks were neutral evil. So, yeah, well, talk about really, you're right, Lengers. They really don't have much going for them. It's kind of right in there, exactly what it says, between kobolds and
Somebody just wanted to use that little part of the alphabet.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not Zorns and you have Zorns and Zills and Zwarts for the
And you have
most
to
part.
fill out the monster manual with.
So it
Yep.
does say those. Tim, you'd like this. Zwarts delight in taking prisoners for torture or
They all
ransom or
do.
both. Yeah, that's
They
true.
all do. They all do. All humanoids are horrible.
Now, here's a cool thing. They have been known to assist or to be assisted by were rats. It's an interesting thing. So
Great.
Cool.
So they hang around with vermin. So I mean,
yeah, but it's it's all right. So it's one that doesn't have anything specialty going for it. But I'll tell you this story.
what's the number appearing at? Like,
I just closed it, but I think it's probably 10 to 100.
See, they're not even in.
I had 40 to 400.
The reason he's talking to the kobolds and the goblins, the reason why, is because neither of the kobolds or goblins like him. So he's just going back and forth.
Here is an Alan argument with me going back 25 years. In my introduction adventure called In the Flesh, you find there's an abandoned estate house and you have to go in. Well, there's Zwarts in there because I probably just got the Fiend Folio book then. And Alan had a character that went in, and Zwarts are really small, and the Zwart went up like this and attacked in critical hit. The critical hit was struck in head, immediate death. Okay? He argued with me for an hour that the Zwart could not have possibly done that because it's too small. And I said you could have been bending over to fight it. You could have slipped and it fell on its weapon. Right? So I've had Zwart critically hit and kill someone. So at low level. I mean, come on, it was fun.
Hey, sure, he doesn't have much to argue about, but I had an argument where a little giant rat attacked a half ogre, and it was a critical hit, hand removed at wrist.
It can happen.
It cannot happen.
Sure it can. The ogre's stepping down to pick up a rock, and its hand gets
He was
bitten.
using a two-handed sword. So, but anyway, you can always make some other, he could have bit half my foot off instead. I think we always stick to a table. If we get too locked into a table, it's like the dead is dead, whether it's the head or whether it's the aorta. It doesn't matter.
Grendel, I guarantee you we're going to get to ogres and half ogres really at the end because I want to discuss also a humanoid /
We're going to do
demi-human.
ogres today, right? We're doing
Absolutely.
Oh,
We're going
yeah.
to save ogres for last tonight in the discussion.
like
Probably
it.
around 9-10 we'll get to ogres. Absolutely. Because ogres have a lot of variables with them. Let's talk about a bizarre one on this list. Let's get through them. Gibberlings and Tazlois, which really are one of these others that are just there's a Gibberling. One of Lowe's, he said one of Lowe's favorites there.
They look very much like Grimlocks with them.
Yes,
They're
and
small though. They're like 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
But they're
Okay.
hit die
they're-
1. Armor class of Gibberlings is 10, as worse as it can get.
Yeah, they're kind of insane. Their language is like something so insane you can't understand it, right?
Yes. Pale
And they
hunched
just
naked
attack.
humanoids with short legs and long arms. Gibberlings are found in desolate woods or dark caverns underground. The subterranean variety loathe bright light and are particularly afraid of fire. 40 to 400 again. They attack on normal swords, but they get +1 to hit with them. One hit die. So they're the equivalent of orcs. But their armor class is 10. That's their drawback because they're just completely naked.
Right,
Just
because
co-
they're crazy. They're just basically mass crazy, charge you, berserker types.
yeah, they're completely
And they're
primitive.
small, right? They're 4 foot tall. Aren't they small?
Yeah, they're really small, 4 to 5 feet tall. Which
Well,
so
they're remember the adventure I ran when a star falls?
yes, I do.
They had a little village that were outside where the deep gnomes had their little forge. There was this village of these things out here. You know, when they made a ruckus, it was kind of like the alarm for the smart people inside the mountain.
So they're just gibbering all over the place.
Yeah, they're like, when they start fighting, they're loud.
So this is another UK monster that ported over in the Fiend Folio. Another one to throw at your
Gibberling or Gibberling?
yeah
Gibberling.
gibberling,
Are you sure it's
gibberling.
Gibberling or is it Gibberling?
Yeah. Well, Shatterer, you're not running 40. It just says number appearing 4400. That could be a lair. Like for example, if you have I'm going to convert this to 5e, or for example, if you have 6 first level characters, I mean, I probably run maybe at most 10 to 12 of these in first edition, second edition. First level characters, you usually do double, about that. 10 to 12 is what you want to run them against at most. The 4400 usually means a lair, appearing in lair. You don't want to take that into your encounter. Yeah, Gibberpalooza, Grendel, it's funny. So it's something different. It's like, so you got a 1 hit die monster instead of orcs, you can use these in occasion, right? And that's what I like. That's why I like the changes
And
on
they
them.
just charge straight in.
This would be a good one for you. It's like, what the heck are these naked things charging us?
The thing is, too, you could have a whole giant bunch of them.
Yeah.
They all charge you nonstop. And if there's that many, I mean, it can be one of those, I hope I have enough arrows in my quiver,
Absolutely. I like it. I like it. A cool thing cool group to bring against the party. Here comes another bizarre one.
The Tasloys?
The Tasloys, yes.
The Tasloys were from Isle of Dread, the X1 adventure, right? Was that the first?
Yeah, from Isle of Dread?
Yeah, I believe the Tasloys, they were the jungle critters out there.
The Tasloys are jungle creatures. The Tasloys are one of the few that are in Monster Manual 2 for humanoids.
Oh, I love them.
I stand corrected. That's not true. It wasn't Tasloy. It was a UNT.
Wanties are abominations. Yeah.
But they're so fun because they're tiny. That's an arrow. It holds.
It's like a javelin, right?
Yeah, and they're 1 hit die as well. Okay, and they have a movement rate of 9 and at 15. Are they allowed to? Can they go through the trees? I'm wondering what the at 15 inches means. Tasloy will eat anything, but they particularly like all kinds of flesh, especially humans and elves.
Delicious. Yep.
Now they are low to average intelligence, living in steamy tropical forests, rarely seen by man. So they're quick and nimble in arboreal passageways, and they're stealthy. So you have it's a cool creature to bring up against. Base armor class is 6, but with shield 5. So there's another one.
Those big ancient abandoned temples deep in the jungle.
Yeah, absolutely.
That live there now.
Like if you were to rerun Hidden Shrine of Tomorrowcon, this would be a good creature you could put out there. Or if you were doing something in what's Sassarine, right? That tropical port now down there, Anna, correct?
Yep.
You could put them there if you get shipwrecked somewhere.
The Emedio and there are a couple of really big jungles down in south of the Flanaess that you can put all sorts of jungle-like monsters. There's tens of thousands of square miles of jungle down there where you can hide practically anything, including whole jungle cultures of things.
So another cool monster instead of just going with orcs. So it says attacks 2 or 1. So I'm assuming the 2 is for. Let me see here if it says. Oh, it must be for missile. Yeah. So
short bow.
They do have their own language. It says they're long-legged, flat-headed humanoids. They walk in a crouching posture, touching their knuckles to the ground from time to time. So it's pretty, and their eyes are cat-like, which is neat too.
So
So
under the triple canopy, it'll be dark all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's another one. It's pretty neat. It's a base humanoid that you can throw up against. Let's go to the reptilian ones now, shall we? How
Well,
about
we
that?
have one, I think, that's kind of a little bit that was part
Okay.
of the Gord books. That is very Greyhawk Lucils.
Oh yes,
Or
but
Lossels or whatever.
yes. All right. Well, you know what? Well, I was hoping that Naz was going to be on, but Lossels,
yeah.
Lossels are.
Jay likes that.
Oh, they're one of my favorites. We'll do them now. So the Lossel. Does anyone?
Yeah.
The Lossel is a cross between an orc and a baboon.
Yeah.
These orcs are
Lossels.
disgusting.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting because they play a fair bit of role in the Gord novels. So the interesting thing is that means that there must be baboons somewhere fairly close to, maybe in Hipmona land or something like that. So,
Well, I imagine after they had the first couple of them, maybe they're just Lossels are hitting each other.
and become, like you said, that you take two crossbreeds, and if you keep
Second
breeding them,
generation.
they become their own breed.
Okay.
Yeah.
From the Ashes has a bunch of these like monster manual cards. There's the Lossel, as you can see. All right. Lossels somehow are 2-hit die. When you breed a baboon and an orc, I guess their hit die go up, right?
Yeah.
They resemble a primitive human in some aspects. Now, they get 3 attacks without a weapon, claw, bite, kind of like what a baboon gets. My game, these are the 2 things. They're foot soldiers in the Vespi Forest for Ayus. Okay, they use them just to cause trouble, but more importantly, they are the #1 most successful crossbreed in my campaign for, where's this? Oh, I just went by the picture, for the mongrels of the putrid tongue, because the orcs are very successful in crossbreeding with monkeys and apes and gorillas and stuff in my campaign. So the Lossel is the perfect shock troop for the mongrels of the putrid
You have
tongue.
an orc carnivorous ape?
Yes, crossbreed. Yes.
Oh yeah,
I do.
that'd be nice.
I actually have the figure too. Tim, Bill painted it. So if you look, yes, it's very disgusting, but I used it just not that long ago.
Orcs are horrible.
Yes, absolutely. And long time ago, Bill's high-level Sylvan Elf fighter, Eleanor Moonchild, when they were in the Vespi Forest and they found the eagle's nest that Anna put on your map, that keep that was hidden, when they went in, there was a whole bunch of Lossels there. As he charged in, Lossels as missile weapons like to throw their hardened dung, right? So a Lossel threw one at critical hit, struck in chest, immediate death. So we had a character get killed by Lossel shit, okay? So we've seen everything in this campaign, but that was
I
awesome.
just don't think throwing should be able to cause that much damage if you're just throwing. Blunt?
You get hit in the. Did you ever
There's
see?
no weapon if I'm throwing a little rock at you. I mean, if you're a giant, it's a boulder, but everything else is like there's something to amp up the speed.
You got hit in the right spot and with a heart, and the heart stopped. I've seen it happen in a hockey game where Chris Pronger got hit by a puck in the chest and his heart stopped.
But the
So
puck
I've
was
seen
hit
that.
with a tool. A tool sent the puck that speed, not
Yes.
a person's hand.
Well, anything's possible in our world. It was awesome. These are actual Lossel figures we have, Anna. That these are Reapers. They were a type of a little primate, and so some of them were plastic. But the 4 front ones, Bill actually customized for me. So I have Lossel figures.
Oh.
Yes, I do.
Are the ones they scream like humans when you stake them down.
Yes, absolutely they do. And that was a little joke from Bill's father, who was in Vietnam. Bill's father told us the story of the rock apes in Vietnam, and they were an annoyance. And what they had to do to get rid, they were all over the place. And when he was serving there, and what they had to do to get rid of them, and they would drag their dead away. So there was a whole really gruesome. We won't talk about that. How gruesome story on how they got rid of them all, because they were a nuisance in an encampment in the military back in the day. So, but Lossels are a fun, annoying I got to read the Gore novels now, especially with Anna when you're saying Lossels are a big part of them.
He's up when they go through the and Gord, he can become a leopard, and he's up in the Vestfy, and past a village of Tushim, I think it's called,
Okay.
or something like that, up there north of. It's in northern end of Tushim. It's a small town on the southern edge of the Vestfy
Is it near
forest.
Sharnalem's fortress?
I think it's safe to say. Go ahead.
It's in the it's at the southeast end of the Vestfy, the
Okay, so
northern
it's right near
edge of
Sharnalem. Okay, cool.
yeah. Mhm.
Excellent. What was that, Tim?
I think it's safe to say that you're not going to find a Lossel smithy making any. They're always going to be using something super primitive unless they've been provided something.
Yes,
So
their
they're
intelligence
like
is
half ape and they're half animal, half
the
orc.
intelligence is
So
low at best. I just love them because it's funny.
yeah, you yeah, I know.
Your mongrels don't use them, mine do. So
Hey, you don't know that.
yeah, well, like I said, I'll bring out the
You
orc
don't know
carnivorous ape
what those
figure.
guys do.
So Anna, that was a good
You
one to
just brought to the
discuss.
forefront. You just brought the
Yeah.
experimentation to the forefront.
I
My
did.
experimentation was all in the back.
That's
You
true.
don't know what's going on.
That's true. But it's a monster you're not going to find in any of the books. You're going to have to find it here in the From the Ashes box set. If you want a copy of this, that's where you would locate this. I mean, it may be in the second edition book, but I know 1E, this is where you're going to find it. So something cool, a good one. Right after this, they're right
Where do you
before.
get their name, Lost?
Lossel? I don't know who named it Lossel.
Do
My
they-
guess
do
is
they
Carl
make- do they-
Sargent.
Maybe do they yell? I mean, maybe they make it sound like when they yell out, it sounds like
No,
Lost.
I think I think it's older than I think it's older than Carl Sargent, because Gary wrote it in he probably
okay.
wrote those stories. I think it's in the dance of the second book after Saga of Old City, the Artifact of Evil. I think it's in that book.
That's
They
cool
mentioned.
that it was
Mhm.
brought out
Yep.
that old, you know.
Yep. So
And
it might be one of Gary's Gygax's own ideas and
that's a good
constructions.
research question to kind
I
of
have
find
to
that
actually
out.
look at it. Lossel might be. I wonder if Lossel. There's a term Lossel in the fairy tale.
But he might have taken it from somewhere. I'm not sure.
So Lossel's native enemy at this point are beastmen, because beastmen are neutral good in the forest,
Yeah.
and they also hate and fear elves. For wood elves frequently attempt to eliminate the orc apes from their woodlands. Lossels are also hunted and eaten by Ketch. Kech, those they look like primates, but they're all have leaf protrusions
Okay.
all over them. Yeah. So it says here the origins of this ape orc cross are uncertain. They were not reported in the Flanaess until CY 500. Some claim that Ayaz is responsible for creating them. This remains a matter of conjecture. It says it right in there. So pretty cool. Lizard men.
Okay.
Lizard men are a kind of an anomaly because they're neutral and sometimes they're aggressive, sometimes they're not. I guess it depends on the situation that you have them in your campaign. They can be a nasty foe, or they can be docile. You can do a lot with them. They can be very primitive, or they can be very, they can use weaponry like this picture. You have a lot of options with lizard men. Lizard men are base 2 hit die as well, so they're a little bit stronger than your standard orc or hobgoblin even. But I like using lizard men kind of as to throw in a little bit of a different thing, especially in swamps. Ada, you use lizard men that much?
No, not that much. I remember back when I had an adventure down in the Hools, and the sea, sea princess. That area has lots of lizard men and similar creatures down in the Hool marshes. That's the only place I really used them.
Okay.
Yeah, and they only played a minor role, like the nuisance that if you go out in the wild, then and if you veer off the intended adventure, then they will come and screw with you. That's roughly how I use them. But they are fairly common in a lot of. I think that there are several adventures in published modules they used them in.
If I recall, the secret of Bone Hill, there was an entire encampment,
Yep.
right? That wasn't
Yep.
Keeping the Borderlands. That's Bone Hill.
Yeah.
There's
On the
an-
Borderlands, there's a little camp.
All right, that
Yep.
okay. Maybe that was
Yep.
the one. And then, of course, everyone remembers Tomb of the Lizard King, which that's
Yep.
great. It's on our Wall of Fame.
Yep.
Is a great module. So if you go from the Lizard Men, you can diverge off to I love that. That's a great picture. That's
Yep.
a whole page fight. You got a two-handed sword warrior fighting a whole bunch of Lizard Men. Like on the top of some kind of a ziggurat. It's a pretty neat one.
And in Living Greyhawk, then they invent, there's a whole kingdom and a whole city of them down in the Hull marshes. It's called Hashtiska or something like that. Htiska is the name of the city that is full of
In the Hull marshes.
Oh, that's Yantees and lizard men. So it's Yantees, these snake people thingy. I think.
Yeah, the original cover's all Lizard Men, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of people don't realize that's like the all Lizard Men in that
All
original
Lizard
Player's
Men
Handbook
laying
cover.
dead right here.
Yeah, and they're dragging out one on the back, if I recall,
Yeah.
too. But in order to make Lizard Men really nasty, give them your Lizard King. Lizard King is very evil and once again, a fiend folio creature. I love Lizard Kings. In fact, when I ran my PAX Unplugged adventure last year, and I had them go up against a Lizard King, they're 8 hit dice, and they can skewer with their trident. The trident does 5 to 20 on a regular hit, and if it rolls 5 greater or more, it skewers and does double damage at minimum 15 hit points. And they are chaotic evil, and they have magic resistance too. So it's a nasty, nasty leader of Lizard Men. And then, if I recall, in Tomb of the Lizard King, it's a vampiric one, right? Don't want to spoil it for anyone, but yeah. So a very nasty.
And he looks like he works out.
Yeah. And then one of the best pictures of all time in any monster manual possible is the next one. It has nothing. You had 2 monsters on the same page. So someone said, let's have them fighting. You have your Lizard King, 2 Lizard Kings fighting lava children.
Lava children.
That's right. Well, and his thing is just going right through him because
Absolutely, because they're immune to metal. And then you look, the one of the Lizard Kings strangling the one, and it's just smiling with that stupid smile on her face. So it's just an iconic. I mean, it's one of the best of all time pictures in any of the mods. I mean, it's just so funny. You got all the giggling lava children there fighting. Yeah, absolutely, one of the funniest ones of all time. And it hasn't. I mean, when possibly would lava children come across Lizard Kings? But that was
Well,
cool.
hey, there's volcanoes in the ocean.
Oh, absolutely. But it's just funny. So
Maybe.
one of those. Trust me, you do not want to put a Lizard King up against 2nd and 3rd level characters. It's a little too low for him. I'm thinking like 5th level. That's when I think they could start handling. Lizard Kings with 8 hit die are nasty.
But if the Lizard King is down below and they're up high on a wall and they can shoot down at him, maybe.
Well, of course, in that case, absolutely. Anything from advantage. Another subterranean creature that's a humanoid. Now, by the way, Lizard Men and this creature are not on the Ranger +1 per hit point damage list. Did you know that? They're not. They're not on that list. Lizard Men and Troglodytes are not on that list for some reason. But they are humanoids.
Yeah.
What is the Troglodyte's special ability, Anna? Do you remember?
No, I don't think I've used them.
I know.
They're part of the Humlet, and they're probably troglodyte
And I
in
think juvenile, high school, and college male.
Oh,
they
they
just think-
stink.
Yeah, they stink.
When aroused for battle,
yeah.
Troglodytes emit a secretion which smells extremely disgusting to humans, dwarves, elves, gnomes, half-elves, and halflings.
And
I
I
just
think
said-
they were, I think they were part of the in the moat house. I think there were troglodytes living in.
I
in
believe
There
so.
were in the basement of Hamlet and the Moat House. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
They
probably the only
stink.
time.
I just said their name.
Yeah.
A high school, college male. So she's like, oh,
It's more like
Yeah.
any male now, or even
Yeah.
in
I
my
was talking
place
about- I was
on
talking
a
about
Thursday
Bart.
night. They're very primitive. There are 2-hit die. They're
Yeah.
Claw Bite or Weapon, base armor class 5, but that's their main, and they're Chaotic Evil.
Oh, yeah.
So that is,
Thank you.
yeah, good.
I want to say thank you, Laser Dog Fem Smelter. They were in Orlane. That's the adventure. That
Oh
was
yes, they were in
yes.
N1 against
Yes,
the Cult of the Reptile God.
Exactly. That's where they were. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. That
Yep.
was a
Not in
great
the.
catch there, Laser.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep.
N1 was the first. By the way, guys, N1 is the first module that was out for Fantasy Grounds in 2E Greyhawk. And if Celestian, if you're on, I think I'm correct on that. And I saw he was hopping on. I'm not sure if he's lurking or not. Yeah, Mike. I think that was the very first one that was available. So against the Cult of the Reptile God, an adventure I have not run, believe it or not.
Oh, I haven't run it, but I've actually played in it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, someone else ran it for me back in forever because it's a really early adventure. Yeah.
Troglodytes feature heavily in the D series.
Yep.
D1, there's a whole giant tribe of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they pop up here and there as
Descent
slaves.
into the depths of the earth. There's a lot of bugbears, if I recall, and all sorts of crazy stuff down there.
Bugbear tribe, troglodyte tribe.
Yep. All right, trolls we're going to do next week. Okay, we're going to do giants and trolls next week in this discussion because there's all different sorts of trolls now. But a base troll is 6+6 hit dice with 5-8, 5-8, and 2-12 claw bite. That's really, really nasty. And then they regenerate 3 hit points per melee round, and then if their limbs get separated, they can still attack with them. So a troll is nothing to be trifled with. But that's why we're going to save trolls and giants for next week. So we'll continue this discussion on that. Oh, cool. Grendel, let's go. 235, The Ecology of the Troglodyte. I'll have to look that one up too.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. And there's another one of those pics that are in the monster in the Dungeon Master's Guide at the bottom, like the trolls sneaking up behind the dwarf in the picture. I love it. Which is pretty hard to do, but pretty neat pic. All right, so here we go. We're gonna get to. Let me see what we've missed. Quaggas. Okay, so Quaggas. I don't know if Quaggas belong on this list, but they are on the list too. I know Doomstalker doesn't belong on this list. Cyclopskin we'll handle under giants. I think Quaggath is the last one before we go to ogre. So all right, let me skim through here real quick.
Is that the guy with the top knot?
A Quaggath looks like a Yeti almost. Here we go. We're almost there. Well, I went right by it. Quaggath.
I saw it.
Yeah, you saw it. So a Quaggath is a big, furry, bipedal, Yeti-looking thing, right?
Ah, the berries.
Yes. Now, the Quaggath has an ability. They allow themselves to be enslaved by dark elves. Okay? So they're not... yeah.
Well, yeah. Who wouldn't?
Right in, let me see, right in another Fiend Folio monster. They're huge and they're large, but they're 1+2 hit die. So, an armor class 6. They're usually
not
unarmed.
That smart. What's their intelligence?
Low.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, hey, these pretty looking dark-skinned silver-haired people seem to have a plan. I'll follow them.
It is a creature that's very primitive. They rarely have weaponry. And their main thing is this. They're like bears. So if they go down to between 0 and -5 hit points, they still fight. And they become berserk, and they get +2 to hit and damage. And their armor class doesn't go down. But then at -6, they die. Bears go to -0, -8, they attack. And then -9, they die in D&D. So this is a creature that has that berserk ability once they're getting close to getting killed. But with only a maximum of 10 hit points, we're not talking about leaders and things like that.
They go berserk a lot.
They go berserk a lot, but yeah. So that's the Quaggath, another one of those Fiend Folio creatures, but another classified as a humanoid. I'm saying that one's right on the border in my opinion, but hey, that's
I'd never used them, so
yeah. So a cool thing that's there. So you can always, if you're running low-level dark elves against a group, maybe with a dark elf priestess of someone, like from one of the families, like from Il Serves, who worships the Elder Elemental God or whatever, and this is a good shock troop for the dark elf leader to bring up, right? Instead of using dark, because Dark elves are smart. They're not going to use their own troops. Even if they are male fighters, they're going to be using quaggas. So something to consider down the road for low-level encounters with them. I think that will cover all but the one we want to talk about the most here, Tim, right? Ogres have a lot of variety, and they are really they're that one step below giants.
Mhm.
And I like ogres because of, oh, look at that. And we hit our second goal of the month. We just made that. Thank you, War Widowhammer. Thank you so very much for that follow. We really appreciate it. Made that 1410 here. Oh, I just went by. I always do that. So I'm on the Ogre Mage. So ogres are base hit die of 4, if I recall correctly.
4+1, I think.
Okay. Did you guys talk about the Koatoa? Lenders, they are not considered humanoids. So we have not talked about Koatoas. We're going to do Koatoas in an Underdark monster one down the road, because we have the Murlocs that we brought in that are part of the Koatoas now. So we will talk about Koatoas down the road. We'll talk about Dark
Ogres are
Elves. We'll talk
4+1.
about Dark Dwarves, the Durgar, all that in a future one. I guarantee you, we'll go through the D series. I think it's a good discussion. Yeah. So, yep, cool. Ogres have the ability to breed with humans. And in our game, 5th edition, you have Goliaths, right? In our game, you have half ogres, and we'll talk about that in a second here. Anna and I were talking. You couldn't hear me talk because I had my stupid sound off, but Anna was talking a lot about Ogre Magi. So, Anna, talk about that real quick.
Well, it's kind of ogres are interesting, and they're also part of many different areas. They use ogres, and I think Mike Bridges should have been here because he can talk about all where they seem to be kind of part of they're kind of part of the family, so to speak. They have a lot of them that have a little bit of ogreish blood in them, so they're kind of big and beefy ones. And then you have the ogre mage that are kind of, they started out being very Asian, like this image you show here, and then they became just beefier, cooler ogres that could do magic and had a whole range of cool special abilities that normal ogres didn't have, and they were kind of bluish in their skins. But there's some awesome illustrations in third edition, I think, and other games like Pathfinder and other derivatives that comes from it that are just
Ogre Magi
awesome.
are great villains.
Yeah,
They're just
yeah,
great,
exactly. They
great.
they can run the whole humanoid tribe, and they can be really powerful
Because
villains.
they can
Yeah,
polymorph self, right?
And I always have them first come up to a party and talk to them in human, especially a female
yeah,
one, all the
yeah,
time. The hot female talking to the party, it gets them gets them off balance. They become visible. They can fly. They have darkness 10-foot radius.
yeah.
They regenerate 1 hit point per melee round. A lot of people don't know that. And
Cold.
they can use charm person, sleep, gaseous form, and a ray of cold, which does 8 damage. Now it's not a
Mhm.
cone; it's a ray. I also have given them other limited magic user ability. I usually give them some sleeps. I give them some magic missiles. I give them burning hand. I give them a little bit of that lower level
Yeah,
stuff as well. And there are 5+2 hit die, so
yeah,
it's a little
and
bit more powerful than a regular ogre. And they are lawful evil, whereas ogres are chaotic evil.
yeah.
So
When I've used them, if I want to make them powerful villains, I add sorcery levels and a few barbarian levels, and you have a master. Add a couple of barbarian levels and a couple of sorcerer levels, and you have a super villain that's someone that can
what's up,
be
Jeff?
powerful enough to run a tribe of thousands of
Yeah,
humanoids.
there's a king of Ogre Magi somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would envision them as a bunch of sorcery levels and a bunch of barbarian levels. So yeah. And you have in Pathfinder, you have a prestige class that is perfect for them, the Blood Rager. That is
Oh,
perfect for our or mage's class, meaning that's a hybrid class of sorcerer barbarian. So add a few levels on that on top, and it's not a prestige class; it's a class from Pathfinder that is a mixture of, it's like a barbarian shaman class that you start with from beginning, and that class is perfect to add a few levels of that on top of an organ mage, and you have these really cool and what I did was that I made when I used ogres I think were from the Pomarsh and others, and I wanted some chieftains. So I took a regular ogre that was fairly dumb, but he had a bunch of barbarian levels, and I made him. He was the chieftain, but the shaman was an ogre mage that was not bigger and looked like a little bit more puny, but had sorcerer levels and a few barbarian levels, so it was actually much tougher. But the characters didn't realize that from the beginning, so but the ogre mage was the one running the show, but used the big brute as the kind of the face of power, so to speak. So that was
The big brute can take care of all the minutia. He doesn't
yep,
want to be bothered.
yep.
See, I know that Alan especially fears that one of these three that we're running in Lord of the Cairn Hills right now, there's four brothers. There, I know he thinks one of these is an ogre mage, and he's incorrect because I know he's not going to watch this, so I can say that. So Grendel, don't no one please tell Alan that, okay? But yeah, there are no ogre magi in this adventure, but there are half ogres. They're all half ogres. The good thing about half ogres in our game, they can level, right? They can level up in their character. We actually have half ogres in the Order of Ulick. It's the Goliath replaces the half ogre in 5e. So how do you build a half ogre? I figured we discussed that for anyone who's a DM and doesn't. Yes, you hear nothing. So I figured that we go over how you make a half ogre, and that'll be cool for anyone who wants to DM them. And it's an old 5e, and it's like, how do I do it? So these three here, you have the main guy is Kraz the Miraculous. To the left is Boz the Mystical, and I know I stole that from the Skeeve, Tim, Boz. And then to the right you have Zaz the Brutal, and the fourth one is named Arturs the Unwashed. So, and Bill hasn't got me that figure yet, but those figures are awesome. They are all modified Reapers. I'm saying their name Reaper, okay, many times Reaper. The Reaper minis, their bones that he modified, did a great job with. You'll see these half ogres being used Thursday night. So this pulls ogres to a higher level because half ogres are great at leading ogres because they're smarter, right? Tend to have that human ogre mix. They can become like true classes, up. They can have all different sorts of abilities.
You can even go up to 4th level cleric.
Well, we actually let them go a little higher. We actually let them go to 5th level cleric. But we allow them to be fighters. We allow them to be bounty hunters, especially. Our bounty hunter class is perfect for an ogre, a half ogre. And there's a couple other classes like bandits. They can be bandits too. So we have some classes that they can be. So if you want to start an ogre, here's where you go. Okay, 2 places: Dragon 73, Best of the Dragon Volume 4. Okay, The Whole Half Ogre by Roger Moore. All right, very basically done, easy to do. It's an allowable player character class for our campaign. So this is the one that we don't have Dragonborn, we don't have any of that stuff, we don't have Minotaurs, we don't have Goliaths, but we have half ogres. All right, very simple. Here's how you do it. And if anyone doesn't have access to this, I will give it to you. Just ask. There's how you do your ability scores for strength, intelligence, wisdom, dex, con, and charisma. Simple. You really want to roll a 5 or 6 to get that 18 strength. I suggest if you have a half ogre with 14 strength, I wouldn't play. Right? You really want to take advantage of that high strength. Yeah. So there you go. And there are the stats. They're only going to have a max of 12 in intelligence, wisdom, or dex. And then they're going to have an 18 con. So that's the special,
Yeah. I made a slightly different list for 2nd generation half ogres, where both parents are half ogres, where the intelligence and wisdom and dexterity has chances of going higher, and charisma has a chance. The range is a little bit higher, but basically it's almost the same.
Now you would say this could be considered as a demi-human. It's both. I consider this as a humanoid and a demi-human. It's both, right? Because it's half human, so it should be a demi-human. But for this discussion, use your half ogres to lead humanoids. It's perfect. It's a great evil high level or low level or mid level antithesis because they're much more intelligent. They can be any alignment. You can do a lot of different things with them. You can specialize them as fighters, right? All sorts of things.
Half ogre specialized with bastards.
Bastard sword, 2-handed sword is nasty. So, Anna, have you ever used a half ogre?
Oh yeah, many
Oh, good.
times. Oh
Good.
yeah, many times. Yeah, and I use them basically that way too, and I treat them as humans that way. They as long as they fill the prerequisites, they can be whatever their abilities kind of let them be. They're probably never going to be really smart enough to be a wizard, but some of them
No.
might be smart enough to have a sorcery level or
Oh,
two.
cool.
And otherwise they will be excellent fighters and barbarians and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
And Dervilia's, well, I know it's not Greyhawk, but Dervilia's
Yes.
mercenary commander is a half ogre.
Yeah. His
Yep.
name
Yep.
is Gorbag the Controller.
Gorbag the controller.
Yes,
And
and if you
he's
got
second generation, and he's had magical enhancements to his charisma.
And if you guys remember, any of you who watched that, he was yelling at his one son that was doing all sorts of trouble at the beginning of the adventure. He's got all these kids, and the guy was getting in fights at a bar, if I recall correctly, right?
That's right.
Right. So yes,
He
so
beat up one of Crew's lieutenants.
he's lawful neutral though. And what's a great another thing about humanoids, as we've seen in the pictures below, I want to point out, I am not averse to NPCing other humanoids in the campaign, especially where it adds a little bit of humor or it adds a little bit
Oh
of
yeah.
flair. So, but I don't allow my guys to PC other humanoids. But everyone knows, and we don't even get. Here's my two favorite: my bugbear bounty hunter and goblin fighter, Poo Poo and Kaka. Sorry about the names, but it was childish back in the day. Poo
Oh,
Poo's the
that
goblin, Kaka is the bugbear, and they're best friends. They're neutral, both of them. They're both members of the Altamira Bounty Hunters Guild, so they were allowed to freely walk around Altamira. No one
They were
bothers them.
rescued. They were rescued by adventurers, weren't they?
They were. Well, that was how. Remember in the Wizard of Id, that's kind of where it started. But they're true neutrals. You may run into them in near Glipdale or somewhere in the Principality of Ulick or the County of Ulick if you're ever running one of my games sometimes, and because they're members of that guild, and that's the only place we have bounty hunters. So just that's another I NPC those. So there you go. I'm not, and there's a couple other ones too, but that's just they're the main two.
They had to pick a more subdued name because their actual literal translation from the humanoid name is probably a lot worse.
Yes. So a little fun thing there.
Yep.
So let's see. We got about 12 minutes here. We will really get into giants and trolls. There's a ton of them next week. I'll put a list together of all the different things. Talk about two-headed trolls, giant trolls, mountain giants, cloud giants,
Ettins.
Ettins, Cyclops.
Yep.
We got a whole Titans. We got a whole bunch of things.
Family of trolls.
Whole family of that stuff, and
Yep.
I promise we'll get into that next week as we continue this series with the humanoids. But we may go back to some of these and do a little more detail. Last thing I want to discuss in like the last 5 minutes before we go into what we're doing is locations. Anna brought up some Blackthorn in the gnarly forest.
Yes.
Lots of gnolls here, and I think ogres. Blackthorn is right on the map. It's in the City of Greyhawk box set, and it's in the Slavers reference. Both places you can find Blackthorn. It's deep. It's very well hidden, but there's a ton of caves well underground, and there's massive amount of humanoids in there gnarly forest. A good place to take a look at and start a campaign out of them raiding villages. It's a perfect spot. Them bothering Narwhal. It's right. It's a perfect spot. That's one I love. Another one, the ruins of Cantona. This is another Slavers reference. This is on the western. This is in the Wild Coast. There's an anti-magic zone around it, so that magic doesn't work in this area, or fizzles. There's a ton of humanoids here of various types. A good spot because they're not worried about wizards blasting them from this area. They have a lot of military-style flamethrowers that were created, and catapults and all sorts of other crazy stuff. This is the place where the mines went off and blew up Michael Baton's ship, and his entire adventuring mercenary group, the Furies, all died because they ran into these fire mines that were set out there. Another place where you have humanoids in the campaign. Anna, can you think of any couple other spots that you kind of like?
We mentioned that is smack full of humanoids. That's kind of the most iconic humanoid area in the Flanaess, where you have tribes and stuff. But I want to put the emphasis on one of my favorite kind of forgotten places places, and that's the Howling Hills.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's in the empire of Ayus, because the and those tribes seems to be, I put them on my map. I put the north of the old Ayus lands, that was the original domain of Ayus, that what I call them the tribal lands, and where the orc tribes that became the base of Ayus armies and stuff when he kind of came back and started his empire. And the Howling Hills, and you have these kind of the Ursun tribe, and the Kendragund, and Ursunagard and Kendragund, and you have the Soul Husk Caverns,
Nice.
and Drenghus and stuff. So there's and you have the Krangord, they all full of humanoids, and these are the tribal lands where a lot of the Ursuns and the Kangords, and then there's a whole bunch of tribes up there. So I haven't detailed each area that much, because I think they kind of blend over, or once they got I used to run them. But I'm thinking about how to do it on the 576 map now, because that's before IUs have made it. So they probably had their tribal lands up there before IUs kind of kind of took them all in under his banner, and made them into a big fighting force, so to speak.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You could put your base humanoids almost anywhere. I
Oh yeah.
mean, on a hidden hill, or like a tomb mound that they've
Yeah.
occupied, or a little opening near a riverbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great thing. You could fit. Yeah, I'm not talking about thousands of them, but you
Yeah.
can fit them almost anywhere.
Yeah, and you have the what used to be the frontier of the Great Kingdom. I think
Mhm.
is one of the main reasons that the Bandit Kingdoms now have lots of humanoids and outcasts and half bloods and all that in their area, because that used to be the frontier of the Great Kingdom, and the Great Kingdom employed a lot of orcs and other humanoids in their troops, especially the northern end, and later in when they started to be deprived by deviltry, and during the Naelex and the Evids in their reign at the last 100 years or 150 years or something of the Great Kingdom. So you have areas in the Bandy Kingdoms that have a lot of half orcs and orcs and various other humanoids too, that they are part of the everyday life, so to speak.
And just remember this: as a DM, you can don't worry about what canon says.
Exactly. You spin from it, and
Yeah,
if something is cooler in your campaign, then you do it.
Plus,
absolutely,
the
And
humanoids are all rebels. They're always fighting. They're always doing. There's always a spin-off. There's always a group going doing whatever, something different.
yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
And see,
And
that's one thing Tim has as an advantage. He doesn't have to worry about canon
yeah,
because he's got his own. There's none in the Wilder lands
yeah.
and that. So he's his
See
is
it as an
scratch.
inspiration. Yeah, see it as an
Absolutely.
inspiration. And if you want to, there is one, I think it's in a Dungeon magazine somewhere, there the Spine Castle in Bone March
Yes.
is detailed as a huge fortress of that humanoids run. And it's a great area where you have lots of cool things like that. You have barbarians north of it, and you have humans south of it, and in between there's a whole bunch of humanoids that are kind of, they fought part, they were part of the drive of the Great Kingdom back in the day before it fell apart, and they rebelled, and they so took over the northern end of the what used to be the Great Kingdom. So it's an awesome area if you want to have humanoid adventures and stuff.
One thing I forgot was the Torch of Grumsh, which is in the Vespi Forest. The Torch of
Yeah.
Grumsh. It's a
Hmm.
very little known sect. It's only one paragraph in the Eyes of the Evil, and that details its leader. The Torch of Grumsh hates the Ayuz orcs, and
Yep.
in my campaign has actually allied with the player characters that are in there and the druids, and they said we'll kill each other and fight each other after we get rid of this Ayuz threat because
Hmm.
they're not indigenous to the Vespi. So you actually have orcs fighting orcs here.
Yep.
So it's a little cool twist. And Grekton Selruk's the leader, and he's a little bit higher level in my campaign, but here, this is out from the Eyes of Evil set. Something you can do. Something different again. You can have orcs fighting orcs in here. They hate the Orogs, which are kind of like the specialty. In our campaign, there are especially orcs that can raise up. There's all sorts of things you can do. Just it's limited only by your imagination as a DM. And like I said, Tim's very imaginative, guys, right? For his. So Tim, what do you have to say in the closing with all this about humanoids tonight?
I have to say that Anna's thoughts about Ogre Magi are very similar to thoughts I've had, Jay.
Good.
You've been warned.
I figured.
I was,
Cool.
yeah.
I've been warned, but I'm not the only one playing that night. So your dad's playing, hopefully Mark's playing, so and hopefully Walt will be playing that night too, and we'll have the full group together.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's only 4 weeks away. I cannot wait.
I mean,
So.
you may not see him.
I cannot wait for that night, the 26th. Lo was asking about it. Will was asking about it. It's going to be It's going to be real fun.
Humanoids are fun because you can make them just the cannon fodder, but you can also set them up so that the littlest ones are the most dangerous to an overconfident group.
Yep, West Riverette and Grendel, you both put up some good points there as well. So Anna, what do you have? I know you're really busy with your mapping.
Yeah. So right now I'm working on the 576 map, is well underway. And currently I'm digging into the Bandit King lands and the Bandit Kingdoms. So that is kind of a really thorny area to because it was an area heavily affected during the war and stuff, and you have IUs coming in, and before then there's like a dozen or so small states and stuff. So there's a lot of locations and small areas and borders and whatnot that needs to, and heraldry and stuff that needs to go in and be adjusted a bit. So that's where I'm currently at. And then you have the neighboring countries that kind of gets affected when you map it, like the Duchy of Ten, that was back in the heyday, that got almost wiped out during the war. And then you have the Pale and the Fostwood and stuff. So that's the area I'm working on.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'm so excited about that. So guys, in closing, there's one orc we got to talk about, and I know it's a joke, but the Mork the orc, which is ripped off from he's a 12th level idiot. This is another Roger Moore article. If you spend an entire day with him, the gods grant you a wish. So if you ever run across Mork the orc in your games, just note that it's almost impossible to stay with him for an entire day. The orcs of all orcs, yes, it was a funny adventure. It's called Midgets in the Earth, but there you go. The orc of all orcs that you do not want to see cross your path, because you always fail all your rolls. You can't hit anything. It's a disaster. So we are off till Thursday this week as we continue Lord of the Cairn Hills, and all I will say is that the group's in a little bit of trouble. Corell and Zarrow sent them on a mission, and they were Corell and Zarrow were going to take Kraz and his brothers out, and all they had to do was take all the minions at this base camp, and they killed all the gnolls. And then when they got done the gnolls across the gorge, they see Kraz and his brothers are there, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" Well, it turns out someone tipped off Kraz, and now they're in a little bit of trouble because Corell and Zarrow are nowhere to be found, because the ambush spot that they were going to go is days away. So they're kind of in a panic what to do, and that's where we'll start on Thursday. It's like I said, this group's third, fourth, and fifth, so it'll be a blast.
Probably run away.
That Alan says that they should just hole up, but this is what heroes are made. What are heroes gonna do? So I'm trying to get to that picture again of Bill's great work. They're the three of the brothers, and then we'll next Sunday we'll do another discussion on this. We'll do giants and trolls. I think that'll be cool. All the different sorts of. I mean, the Fiendfall was great for all the different sorts of trolls, and then there's a whole bunch of new giants in Monster Manual 2. There are all sorts of giants that we can throw up against, and giant sub-giants like furbolgs and Formorians and Verbeegs. There's all different sorts of cool things. So we will, tactical withdrawal. We'll see what happens on Thursday, and then that'll be it for it'll be a light. It's not going to be a multiple stream week, but that's what's going on this upcoming week. So thank you all for us hitting our second goal of the month. We're we surpassed 2 goals on followers. I really appreciate that. Thanks all for the subs. It's going very well. Hopefully, I'll have a major sponsor announcement. Finally, working out some things with one of our sponsors to finalize. If it goes the way I think it is, hopefully, we'll have a lot of goodies to give out almost every week. So, but we got to wait and see and make sure that gets finalized. But other than that, yeah. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, it was on Wednesday. Thanks, Greg. I know you're gonna watch it off, but it'll be back on its normal Thursday night this upcoming week. So, Anna, Tim, you got any other thing in closing? We're gonna go and raid into Praetor's Rejects. Thanks, man. Thank you. Praetor's Rejects is doing a special Sunday night Halloween thing the next couple weeks. So I want to raid into Duff. Duff was on our roundtable last week. Jimmy Duffy. We want to go into that tonight and see what's going on over there. I'll start. Yes.
Humanoids, I like him. Like I said, when you announced you're doing Humanoids, I was like, yes. I hear the drums of war.
Yes, you do. Absolutely. And we'll hear the drums of slaughter next week when we're talking about trolls, especially. That'll be a good one. And then we'll go on from there, and hopefully we'll have some new guests coming on too down the road. Not next week, but in a couple weeks, hopefully we'll have some cool guests that you haven't seen yet on the show here. But thanks, guys, for that. I'm going to go to the exit screen, and I'm going to start the raid up. Hopefully I don't screw this up like I always do. Give me a second here, and let me get it started. I always mess this up. I do, but yeah, I'm also doing this on my laptop, so it's here we go. So I hit this, and I hit Praetor's Rejects, and then I hit raid. And hopefully, there we go. Okay, we're going to put it on the other screen. Thanks, guys. See you Thursday night. Thank you for a great show. Appreciate it. All right, 15's good.
Huh?
It was a raid of 15 into.
Jay, let me ask you. Do they hear us talking or on
yeah, they should. They can hear us talking. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I just got a quick question.
Go ahead.
So, the left-hand column shows. When I click it, I guess it shows the channel.
Yeah, this shows the channel.
Right. So if I'm looking at it, it says Lord Gazumba has an 83 next to it. What is that?
Viewer average.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, current was 85.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And now we're going to Praetor's Rejects. We'll hop them up. So that we just knocked them all the way up to 44. So as soon as that comes off, I'll show it. Thanks, guys, for a good one here.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, I knew it. We just covered the basics. You know, this wasn't super in depth.
Yeah, and I didn't have time to read back on things I haven't read in years. So a little bit of knowledge about humanoids in my class.
Humanoids are a way to have the worst in humanity be displayed in D&D and put it in a form that is justifiably used math.
Yeah, you can be racist and you can be racist and all sorts of stuff, and it's okay against
because they're orcs.
Yeah.
So I always like to have the